Life, in Jesus' name. Chapter 26. It's May 27th, Monday afternoon, Keno Estate, Crystal Cove, California. Taylor came bursting in the front door of her grandparents' home. "There you are," Shelley said from the kitchen. Taylor came in and brushed her grandmother's cheek with her lips. Right behind her were Bree, Ricky, and young Eric. They all came and bussed Shelley's cheek. "Where is everyone?" Bree asked. "Well, Eric is in his study speaking with Keegan," Shelley answered with a smile, but didn't say anything else. "Grandma," Taylor said, exasperated, "where's Gabe?" Shelley laughed and pointed out the kitchen window. "He's walking on the beach, waiting for you." Taylor kissed Shelley's cheek again, then hugged her. "Thanks." She ran out the glass dining room doors. Ricky shook his head as he sat down at the kitchen table. "I'm going to give them about 10 minutes alone, and that's it." "You got anything to snack on?" young Eric asked as he went to the refrigerator. "Well, I just put away some leftover sandwiches. They're in that square green plastic container on the second shelf." "Got it." While Bree, Ricky, and young Eric sat and talked quietly, Shelley glanced out the window. Gabe was walking north, his hands in his pockets. Shelley heard Taylor call Gabe's name. He turned, a smile on his face. He held his hands out, and Taylor ran full speed into his arms. She bowled him over, and he fell backwards onto the sand. He lay on his back while she straddled his body and bent her head to kiss him. It was beautiful, Shelley thought, this young, exuberant love. Gabe's hands came up to tangle in Taylor's long hair. He held her head as he kissed her, and then in a split second he reversed positions, and suddenly Taylor was on her back. Gabe laid next to her, kissing her a long time. Shelley sighed. She watched as Gabe's hand rested on Taylor's abdomen and his lips moved to her neck, and she closed the blinds and turned. There was no reason to intrude on their privacy. She trusted both youngsters to know when it's time to stop. She leaned against the counter and listened to Bree and Ricky talk about their travel plans to go to Georgia for Jake and Lena's wedding in a few weeks. She looked down as her cell phone went off. It was Jeffy. "Hi, sweetheart," Shelley said as she answered. "Taylor and Gabe," she cried. "Taylor and Gabe, hurry, get Dad." Eric and Keegan came out of the study before Shelley could even call them. "Are Taylor and Gabe still down on the beach?" Eric asked. Shelley held up her phone. "Yes, Jeffy says they're in trouble. She says to hurry." The men rushed out the back door, Bree right behind. Shelley looked out the window and gasped. "Call you back," Shelley said quickly. Shelley ran outside and watched in horror. Gabe was fighting with several men, 5, 6, it was hard to tell. Taylor lay face down on the sand. Young Eric arrived first, grabbing a guy from behind and pulling him off of Gabe's back. He pummeled him to the ground with his fists until he wasn't moving, and Ricky spun, kicked, and knocked another guy unconscious, and Keegan bashed someone's head into his knee, and the guy fell, and Eric chopped a guy across the throat and sent him down, as Ricky ran to Taylor, arriving the same time as Bree. They turned her over. Keegan started toward Gabe, the only one still fighting. He wanted to step in and help, but thought Gabe needed a win. Gabe bashed the man in the face several times, but the guy wasn't fazed. Gabe kneed him in the groin, and the guy finally went down, but he kicked out, and Gabe stumbled and fell onto his hands and knees. Quickly, the guy grabbed Gabe from behind, put him in a headlock, jerked him up to his feet, and held a knife to his neck. Gabe immediately stilled, his breath coming in gasps. Keegan started forward, but the man yelled, "One more step, and I'll kill him." Suddenly, everyone got quiet. Keegan pulled his gun, his arms out straight, the gun pointed at the man who'd pulled a gravity knife and held it to Gabe's throat. He calculated the distance, about 30 feet away. Gabe tried to pull away, but the man pressed the knife harder against his throat, and a thin line of blood appeared. Keegan spoke firmly. "You have only a few seconds to drop the knife and let him go before a hole appears in your forehead. Back off and let us leave, or I will slit his throat without a second thought." "Let us leave? How are you going to leave with these guys?" Keegan asked calmly. "You going to carry 4 guys out with you?" The man glanced around. "I guess not. I guess I'll just kill the kid for the heck of it." "Fair warning, you might want to stop and think. This isn't my first rodeo. You're in danger of losing your life. Is it worth it? Is it worth it?" All you have to do is remove the knife from his throat and drop it on the ground. You do that, and I'll put away my gun, and this will be over. The man slid the knife along Gabe's throat as a warning. I will kill him. Gabe winced as blood began to flow down his neck. Now back off. Keegan pointed his gun up, hands in the air. There. See? I'll back off. Now just drop the knife. The man laughed. Oh, I'll drop the knife as soon as I complete my mission. And what is your mission? To kill the kid. Dear God, I swear I don't want to kill this man, Keegan said. The man laughed. Put the gun down and back away because I swear I do want to kill this kid. Head to the left, Keegan said softly. What are you talking about? I'm not heading anywhere. I'm just going to drop this kid. He wasn't talking to you, Gabe murmured as he leaned his head slightly left. Keegan's eyes narrowed, watching the man's forearm. It tensed. The knife began to cut, and the shot rang out as Keegan made good his promise. The knife fell away. The man holding Gabe fell to the ground, bringing Gabe with him. Keegan holstered his weapon and ran to his son, who lay dazed, holding the wound on his neck with his own hand. Eric knelt down next to him. He carefully pried Gabe's hand away so he could see if it was a fatal wound, but both Eric and Keegan peered closely. I can't tell. There's too much blood. Keep the pressure on it, Eric said as he pulled off his shirt and pressed it to the wound. Taylor, Gabe muttered. Is she okay? He hit her head. Is she okay? Eric smiled. If he was talking and asking about Taylor, he was pretty sure the knife didn't go deep enough to hit his artery. Ricky, Eric asked, how is she? I'm not sure yet. She's alive. She's still out. Her nose and mouth are bleeding so much I can't tell if there's a head wound. Shelley made her way down. Paramedics are on the way, and police, and Jason, and Justin for you, Keegan. Keegan nodded. He was probably going to need a lawyer again. He couldn't think about that right now. ETA is 12 minutes, Shelley continued. She knelt down next to her granddaughter, placed her hands on her head, and began praying. Gabe, Keegan said, are you with me, son? Gabe drew a ragged breath. I'm here. He whimpered. Is Taylor okay? Yes, she's fine, Eric said swiftly. Can I see her? I don't want you to move. Please, Dad. Shh, now. Soon, okay? Just be quiet and calm and say a prayer for her. That's the best thing you can do. Young Eric was pacing furiously in the sand. He was sick and tired of this world. Here were two of the best people the world had ever known, lying here on the sand, their lives hanging by a thread. Well, hopefully not by a thread, but it was bad, and it could have been much worse. Stupid. It was stupid, and he was stupid. He knew Gabe had been given a warning, but young Eric hadn't thought about it at all when Taylor ran out to see Gabe. He was only thinking about how happy those two were to see each other. Gabe? Everyone turned at the softly uttered word. Taylor, is that you? Yeah. Are you okay? Are you? I asked you first. No, you didn't. You just didn't hear when I asked about you, Gabe said, and then coughed. Lie still. No more talking, Keegan ordered. Dad, Taylor questioned, is Gabe really okay? Tell me the truth. Ricky stroked her face. He's going to be fine, he assured her. She tried to rise up, but Bree held her down. Be still, sweetie, please. I want to see Gabe, she said, her voice choking on sobs. Please, Dad, I have to see him. I have to know he's okay. Please, I have to see him, Dad. Please. She was so distraught that Ricky pulled her into his arms, stood, carried her over, and laid her next to Gabe. She reached out her hand and took his. Rick, Eric said, we don't have a lot of time before the official interrogators get here. Ricky nodded. He kissed his daughter's forehead. I'll be right back. Bree watched her husband and son head over to the four guys lying on the beach, a few of them struggling to stand and get away. Young Eric grabbed one by the front of his shirt and dragged him over to where another one sat, holding his face. When they had them all together, they searched them, finding 2 more knives, cell phones, wallets. Young Eric quickly looked through their identities and looked for any scraps of paper with notes written on them. Ricky spoke. If you don't want to end up like your dead friend over there, then start talking. When no one offered up anything, Ricky sighed. Eric, hand me one of those knives. Eric did as asked. None of them were small enough to use inside the nose, but he'd work with what he had. He pressed the blade against the cheek right under the eye. Dad, don't do it, young Eric pleaded. Ricky glanced up at him. His acting skills were improving. Impressive, actually. He'd almost thought he was serious. My son knows what's coming. You see, it's really easy to pop out someone's eye. He pressed the point inward just under the guy's eye. Who sent you? Please don't, the guy blubbered. Ricky pressed harder. Tell me now. Who sent you? I swear I'd tell you, but I can't remember his name. It's weird, like foreign. Foreign like Spanish sounding? He pressed the tip of the knife into the skin. No, please, like Russian or maybe Polish. What's it start with? L. It starts with an L. Land something, I swear. Land? Listening to the interrogation, Eric closed his eyes and shook his head. Lansk, he said to Ricky. Is that right? Lansk? Yeah, that's it. It can't be him. He's in prison. You're lying, Ricky said, as he moved the knife firmer against his cheek. No, it's the truth. You have to believe me. The other guy, the one paying the money, he's in prison, but not Lansk. The one in prison, he's like a billionaire. Did Lansk actually speak to you? I mean, face to face? When he didn't answer, Ricky pressed the knife a little deeper. I'm getting tired of this. Tell me all you know or the eye pops out. Did Lansk speak to you personally, and did he send you after the girl or the boy? The guy whimpered as blood trickled down his cheek. The man, Lansk, he's a bad dude. Please, man, he's going to kill me. I've already said too much. Well, then working with us is your best bet right now, so answer the question. He sent me after the girl. He said he was positive she'd be alone with the boy. He told him, Manuel, he said, pointing at his dead friend, to kill the kid, to make sure he didn't ever get a chance to ruin the virgin or something freaking crazy like that. I swear that's all I know. How did he contact you? He was at a club, Los Dragons. Put out word he'd pay $20,000 apiece for us to take the girl and kill the kid, and he didn't say anything about the kid being like a fighter or something. Why does he want the girl? Something weird, man, like about her blood, royal blood, or being a queen or something. I didn't really listen that much. What's the name of the guy in prison, the one paying the bills? I don't know his first name, but he's a doctor, Dr. Black. Ricky sighed, pulled the knife away. He stood and looked at his father, then up to see the world descending down the steps of the beach, to the beach. Where's Jeffy? Eric asked. She was at the hospital when she called, so I told her I'd call her back. She's probably frantic, Shelley replied. I'll call her, Eric said as he rose and walked away from the others. Hey, Daddy, Jeffy said softly. I know they're alive, but how bad is it? How bad is it? Eric filled Jeffy in and asked her to call her brothers. We're getting close, aren't we, Dad? Jeffy asked softly. I'm not sure, baby girl, I'm not sure. But, Jeffy, listen. This was a kidnapping attempt by Black and Lansk. They were told to kill Gabe and take Taylor because of her royal blood. No, this can't be. Aren't they in prison? Black is. Apparently his right-hand man was released, which means you cannot be alone. Is Cam with you? Yes. He is not to leave your side, Jeffy, not for any reason. Yes, sir, she sniffed. Will this evil ever stop? Probably not, sweetie. Not until Jesus comes. Until then, we will be his warriors and fight the battle the best we can. Right? Right. Jeffy ended the call and glanced at her husband, who was just getting off his own call. Who was that? Jeffy asked. It was Jason. You are my new assignment for the foreseeable future. Who were you talking to? My dad. You are not to leave my side. Cam gave a small smile. Feels like old times. New scene. Taylor and Gabe had both been transported to the hospital. Shelley and Bree followed the ambulances. Jason had his men scour the beach for evidence. A police detective walked along with them. Another detective was looking over the body of the dead man and then at Keegan. I'm going to need to take the gun. He held out his hand. Keegan sighed and drew his gun from the holster, ejected the mag, unchambered the bullet, and handed it all to the man. The detective checked the magazine and placed it and the bullet in a bag. Looks like you only used one bullet. That's all it takes, Keegan answered. Where were you standing when you fired? Over there. The detective scanned the area and found the casing and bagged it. He looked over at the dead guy from where he stood, nodded his head. That was some shot. He was going to kill my son. I had to take it. I understand, but Agent Tanner, you know it's illegal to carry a loaded weapon in California, even as a security officer, if you're not on duty. I'm always on duty. Always. That's who I am. That's what I am. I carry my weapon wherever I go, and I don't take it off until I go to bed or enter a courthouse, and it's a good thing, or my son would be dead right now. Detective Lopez nodded. He knew better than to mess with Ameritech, even though their arrogance bothered him. They did everything by the book. Their permits were always up to date. They were known for their honesty and integrity. But this Keegan Tanner, the detective always thought of as a loose cannon. He sighed. If we have any more questions, how can we reach you? Keegan gave him all the information, though he was sure the detective already had it. Listen, I really need to call my wife and get to the hospital to be with my son. Lopez nodded. We'll be there to speak with him soon. Eric, Ricky, and young Eric joined Keegan. Jason came back and nodded at the men. He found the vehicle they rode in parked up at the overlook near the rocks. Keegan nodded. I need to get to the hospital. I don't want Gabe or Taylor without protection. We'll get you there, but I already have men at the hospital, and Jeff will be arriving there any minute. Keegan nodded, satisfied that his son and Taylor were safe at the moment. Thanks, Jason. And now I have to make the dreaded call, but let's get going and I'll make the call in the car. The men finished up. Eric gave the detectives the video from his home security cameras. They loaded up and rode to the hospital. The Kenos in one car and the Lees and Keegan in another. Jason and Justin were silent as Keegan filled his wife in on what had transpired. From what they could tell, she'd taken the news fairly well. Keegan also spoke with Rose and asked her to take care of her mother, and then followed up with a call to John and asked him to do the same. He then called his assistant at Ameritech and dispatched 2 agents to watch over his family while he was gone. Not that he thought they were in danger. It was Taylor the bad guys were after, which was freaking maddening. The moment Keegan got to the hospital, he was taken back to see Gabe. He was sitting up on the edge of a gurney. He still wore his jeans, but the blood-soaked shirt had been removed. He had an IV, and his neck was sutured and bandaged. Gabe looked up when he came in. Dad, Gabe said. Keegan came to him and hugged him, then pulled away to look at him. Are you okay? Yes, sir, I'm fine. Have a few stitches in my neck, but no big deal. What's the IV for? Gabe held up his arm. Some fluids and some antibiotics so that the cut won't get infected. They said I can go home soon. Keegan nodded. Dad, I'm sorry, Gabe said softly. For what? For making you have to do what you did. Keegan nodded. I'll do whatever it takes to protect my family. I know that, but Dad, I knew I shouldn't have been alone on that beach with Taylor. I've had dreams of Taylor on a beach, all bloody. God was trying to warn me, but I didn't listen. I listened, but I didn't let the warning alter my actions. I'm sorry. I know how hard it is for you, what you did. How are you feeling? Keegan smiled. Don't you worry about how I'm feeling. The question is, how are you feeling? I'm fine, Dad, I really am. But I want to know that you're okay too. Honestly. Keegan sighed. Honestly? I've been better. Dad, talk to me. I need to understand. Please. He nodded. Okay. It's like I have this pack on my back, and it's full of rocks, each one representing a person I've killed. It's a heavy burden, but I eventually get used to the weight. Today, I added another rock to the pack, so it'll feel heavy again until I get used to the extra weight. But I will get used to it. Gabe's eyes teared up as he tried to understand the weight his father bore and the strength of the amazing man who was his father. He sighed. I need to get stronger, Dad. I need to get more skilled. You will. I want to be one of Jason's elite. If I'd known how to get Out of that situation, you wouldn't have had to kill him. Don't make snap decisions based on an emotional trauma. I feel like I'm being shown my path. Okay, we'll talk tomorrow. Okay, Gabe said softly. Does Mom know what happened? Yes, I spoke to her a little while ago. Is she okay? She seemed to be very calm. I wonder what that means. Keegan smiled. I'm not sure. Have you heard about how Taylor's doing? She's okay. She has a concussion. She was unconscious for several minutes. They want to keep her overnight for observation. I need to see her. As soon as they take out this IV, I'd like to go see her, Dad. I know you're probably tired. It's been a long day, but could I see her for just a few minutes? Keegan nodded. Oh, I think we can make that happen. Gabe looked up as two men in suits walked into the room. Keegan turned and frowned. The men stepped forward with smiles on their faces and held out their hands, which Gabe shook. Gabe, I'm Detective Hunter, and this is Detective Lopez. He turned to Keegan. Agent Tanner, I'm Detective Hunter. You've already spoken with Detective Lopez earlier. Keegan nodded and shook hands. Gabe, I know you're probably tired, but can you fill us in on what took place on the beach today? Yes, sir. Taylor and I were, we were lying down in the sand. Having a little makeout session, from what I understand, Lopez said. Gabe nodded. Yes, sir. She's my girlfriend. We haven't seen each other in a while, and we were happy to be together again. How old are you? Lopez asked. I'm 17. Go on. You were lying down, and then what? Well, we heard some footsteps like someone running, and we looked up, and these guys came running right at us. We jumped up, and I told Taylor to run to the house, but one guy grabbed her. I tried to get to her, but a couple guys jumped on me, and I looked over at Taylor, and she was fighting hard against the guy who had her, but he drew back and hit her twice, really hard, and she fell to the ground face down. I couldn't get to her because they were all over me. I fought them, though. All four of them? Yes, sir. You're a student of the Kenos? Yes, sir, and Master Apple when I'm in Georgia. Detective Hunter interrupted. Lopez, this is Gabe Tanner. You know, the one who won the mini-mart a few months ago. And the same kid who was kidnapped on the way home from his high school baseball game in Georgia. And the same kid who just put on a martial arts demo 2 days ago against multiple attackers. Lopez's brows rose. Actually, no, I didn't know. I knew who Keegan Tanner was. I didn't make the connection to his kid, but I don't do social media. Well, that's because you don't have teenage girls, Hunter replied. So, Lopez went on, you fought the guys, and then what happened? And then my dad and Grandmaster Keno and Ricky and Eric Keno came down to the beach to help us. They took out 4 guys, but the last guy I was fighting pulled a knife and held it to my throat. He kept saying he was going to kill me. He actually said he wanted to kill me. And my dad begged him to not do it, but the guy started to do it anyway, and my dad shot him. He cut me pretty good, Gabe said as he touched the bandage on his neck. I have 12 stitches. I was told your father asked you to move your head to the left. Yes, sir, so he could have a clear shot. You trusted your father to shoot that close to your head? Gabe frowned. Of course. He's almost as good a shot as me. Keegan rolled his eyes, and the detectives eyed each other. This is hardly a time to be joking around, Lopez admonished. I'm not joking. I'm serious. I'm letting you know how much I trust my father. We don't joke about shooting. So you also shoot guns? Yes, sir. I love to shoot. The kid has skills, Keegan put in. He's been shooting since he was in 1st grade. The detective shook his head in obvious disapproval. Do you carry? No, sir. I'm a minor, but as soon as I turn 21, I'll get my permit, and then I will carry. In Georgia, not here. Correct. I know the laws. I'll follow them always, just like my father. You people in Georgia and your obsession with guns, it's a shame, Lopez mumbled. Keegan's brow shot up, and he looked at the other detective, who only shook his head. Gabe smiled, only to hide the viciousness with which he was about to speak. Tell me, Detective Lopez, why it's a shame. Is it a shame that we as Americans believe in the Constitution, the one thing that sets us apart from any other country? Or is it a shame that we have like 50% less crime in our state than here in California? Or is it a shame that we know and understand our rights, or maybe that good people who own guns have saved millions of lives? Gabe, Keegan said sternly. Sorry, Dad. I guess I'm a little on edge. I apologize. I meant no disrespect, at least no more than he meant toward us. Are there any other questions? Keegan asked. Not at this time, Detective Hunter said quickly. New scene. She was lying on her side, sound asleep. Gabe quietly lowered the bed rail and eased himself into the bed to lay beside her. He gently touched her face. Taylor? Gabe, is that you? She asked softly. Open your eyes and see for yourself. I'm afraid to. I was dreaming and I heard you speak to me and I opened my eyes and you weren't really here, so what if I'm just dreaming again? He chuckled. Well, that is a dilemma. He softly brushed his lips against her cheek. In the dream, did I do that? She smiled. No. Her eyes opened. He smiled at her. There she is, he said softly, my beautiful Taylor. Ha, not so beautiful right now. Super beautiful, because you're alive. And you are too, and you fought those guys so bravely. I'm just sorry I was too late to get to that guy before he hit you. He touched her mouth. Your upper lip is pretty swollen and it has a cut right here. What in the world is going on? A nurse said as she came in the room. Gabe turned. Oh, sorry, ma'am. I was just saying goodnight before I have to leave. The nurse smiled. Oh, you're Gabe Tanner. Yes, ma'am. Well, let me just fix one thing. She came to the bed and raised the rail behind Gabe. She touched his shoulder. We don't want you falling out of bed onto this hard floor and getting hurt. Taylor giggled and the nurse winked and left the room. Oh, you're Gabe Tanner. Oh, my. We don't want you to get hurt, Taylor mocked. Gabe laughed. Are you in a hospital gown? Taylor suddenly asked. Yeah, my shirt was so bloody we had to toss it, so they gave me this to wear until I get home. Bloody? I guess you don't know what actually went down. What went down? I mean, I know you fought with those guys. I know you were hurt because I heard your dad tell you to lie still. How badly were you hurt? Well, after the guy knocked you out, I tried to fight them off, and your dad and brother and Grandmaster Keno and my dad and all came down to help, and the guy I was fighting with held a knife to my throat and said he was going to kill me. He ended up cutting me. Gabe lifted his head so she could see his throat. She gasped and reached up and touched the bandage. How did you get away? He breathed a heavy sigh. My dad, he had to shoot him to save my life. Taylor was quiet. Are you okay? He asked. Are you? He smiled. I asked you first. I didn't know that happened. I'm sure it was horrible, and I'm sorry for you and your dad. I just don't understand any of this. Me neither, but we'll get it all figured out. For now, though, I really have to be going. Oh, no, don't go, Gabe. Please just stay with me. I want to. I would, I swear. But my dad is waiting for me, and if I stayed, that means he would sit in a chair right outside your door the entire night. He's so tired. I need to get him back to the house. Okay, I understand. For your dad, I get it. And your dad is going to stay with you, and they said that they're only going to keep you overnight, so I'll see you tomorrow morning. There's going to be some big family meeting. Oh, I'm sure there is. So I guess I'll see you in the morning then. She scooted forward and hugged him. He put his arm around her and pulled her in close to his body. Someday, Tay, maybe we won't have to say goodbye. She was quiet a moment. I don't know how to take that. Well, you take it any way you want, because I love you. She sniffed. I love you too. He kissed her forehead. She giggled. I bet you're stuck because your sweetie pie put the bed rail up. Excuse me? You're talking to a prime athlete here, he said with a laugh as he sat up and then hopped over the rail to the floor. Oh, I'm sorry I underestimated you. It's okay. I'm used to it, he said with a smirk. He waved again and left the room. Outside the door, his father and Jeff Davis and the agent on duty spoke quietly with Ricky and Bree. Eric, Shelley, Jeffy, and Cam had already left for home in Cam's car. "Thanks for waiting for me, Dad," Gabe said. He chuckled. "What's the alternative?" Gabe smiled. His father had just killed a man. Now he makes jokes as if nothing had happened. His father was not just physically strong, but mentally and emotionally tough, and able to file things away in their proper perspective. The more Gabe got to know his father, the more he respected him and admired him. Gabe wondered how many times his father had done something similarly difficult at work and then come home to help Gabe with his algebra, or toss Iris in the air and kiss his mother. People always described him as dark and dangerous. To Gabe, he was a beacon of safety and light. "So, how are we getting back to the house?" "Bree and young Eric are going to drop us off." Gabe looked up. He didn't see young Eric. "He's around the corner, sitting alone," Keegan supplied. "He's struggling a bit, I think." Gabe thought about it. Today was probably the first time Eric had seen someone die right in front of his eyes. Gabe himself hadn't really seen it. He was too busy struggling to keep from bleeding out. He sighed. "Should I go talk to him?" "No. Let him work through it. When he's ready, he'll probably talk to his father or grandfather." New scene. It's May 28th, Tuesday morning, Keno Estate, Crystal Cove, California. Eric stood at the entrance to their living room and peered around at the people he loved with every fiber of his being. There was a low murmur of conversation. He'd lost track of how many family meetings they'd had when they'd had to discuss the safety of a family member. They always called a meeting because what affected one impacted the whole family. Taylor was usually the one who volunteered to take the little ones to play during the meetings, but today that wouldn't work. So today, Lori, Justin's wife, volunteered. She gathered Sophia and Kelston and Ledger and Emily and headed to play downstairs. The living room contained 3 large sofas placed in a U shape. Those sofas used to hold them all, but not anymore. Even with the new additions of a love seat and a wing-back chair, they still had to bring chairs in from the dining room table. Eric smiled at his wife, who sat with her daughter Bree, best friend Angel, who was Jason's wife, her daughter Kimmy, who was Jeffy's best friend, and Jeffy, all of them on one sofa. On the next sofa sat Mark, Shelley's oldest son, and his wife Bella, her sister Breeze, who was Joey's wife, and Mickey Davis, who was Jeff's wife. The third sofa was occupied by Justin, Jason's older brother and family attorney, Joey, Shelley's youngest son, Jason, and Keegan. Gabe and Taylor occupied the love seat, and 6 dining room chairs brought in and placed around the room were filled by Logan, young Eric, JoJo, Jensen Deal, who was Kimmy's husband, Cam, who was Jeffy's husband, and Jeff Davis, those last 3 all being Ameritech agents, along with Jason, Joey, and Keegan. Ricky stood silently against the front window, his arms folded across his chest. Young Daniel and Jeremy Davis sat cross-legged on the floor. The wing-back chair was currently unoccupied, but everyone assumed that Eric would eventually sit there. "How are you feeling?" Taylor whispered in Gabe's ear. "I'm feeling happy to be sitting next to you," he answered. "How are you feeling?" "Feeling weird to be sitting here. I'm usually the one who takes the little ones to the playroom and keeps them occupied while the adults talk." "Gee, Tay, I guess that means you're growing up." She giggled and squeezed his hand. Gabe looked up to see Grandmaster Keno looking at him. Gabe smiled, stood, and bowed, and Grandmaster Keno returned the gesture. "Now that we're all here," Eric started as the room immediately became quiet, "let me say good morning to you all. I would say welcome to our home, except that would be silly, because as far as I'm concerned, everyone here is part of my family, so this is your home too. And since we're discussing the subject of security, I'm going to turn the time over to Jason, but before I do, I'd like to open with a prayer. However, instead of hearing me drone on and on, I thought I'd call on one of you to say it. Gabe, would you mind?" Gabe's eyes opened wide. "Oh, me?" Eric smiled. "Is there another Gabe in the room?" No, sir." "Yes, sir, I'd be honored to say it." He stood and bowed his head, took a deep breath to clear his mind and focus his attention. "Father, hey, it's me again." There was a murmur of laughter. Gabe cleared his throat. Father, so this time I'm praying for all of these people here as we're getting ready to have a meeting. Father, I know you love all of these people. I can feel your love for them so strong right now. His voice filled with emotion. Thank you for that. Um, so we're going to try to figure out the best way to protect Taylor from some bad guys. And we ask you to fill us with wisdom and understanding so that we can protect these people that we love. Let us all be in tune with you so that we can keep everyone safe. We understand, Father, that sometimes we have to go through hard times, but we also know that you're right here beside us as we do go through those hard times. Just like you were with the guys in the fiery furnace in the book of Daniel. So anyway, I pray your Holy Spirit to be with us as we meet today. He paused. And Father, I'm just going to say, same as I said last night and earlier this morning, I'm just going to say right here in front of everyone how sorry I am that I didn't listen. I hope you'll forgive me, and I'm grateful that it didn't result in Taylor's death. And I know you sent me warnings about Taylor being hurt on a beach, but I wasn't even thinking about that. I had my mind on, on other things. Please don't stop giving me messages. Please don't stop giving me messages. I promise to do better, to be more aware. Father, help us all to be aware. I guess that's all for now. As always, I pray in Jesus' mighty name. Amen. Amen, everyone affirmed loudly. Shelley picked up the tissue box and passed it around as several women dabbed at their eyes. Young Eric glanced at Logan and JoJo and nodded with a smile. And Taylor smiled up at Gabe and brought his hand to her lips and kissed it. Well done, Gabriel, Eric said softly. I will now turn the time over to Jason. Jason stood and waited for Eric to take a seat. It'll be good for everyone to know and understand what went down 3 years ago so that you can know what we're dealing with now. You may remember the crazy, whacked out, and high genius Dr. Julian Black, a renowned geneticist, had it in his mind to take Jeffy, procreate with her, and make some kind of super genius hybrid kid. He had it in his mind that somehow she would consent to this. I suppose in the interest of science. He had Grandmaster Keno and Shelley taken hostage to lure Jeffy into his lair, so to speak. Payne Lansk, ex-military Army Ranger, was in charge of the hostages. He was Black's right-hand man, who pretty much carried out all of his sicko designs. He got off on torturing Eric and beating up Shelley. And one of the strange things Dr. Black did was take eggs and sperm from Eric and Shelley. He glanced at the two youngest people in the room and then at Jeff. Sorry, I wasn't thinking about your boys being here. Jeff nodded. Yeah, they pretty much know about eggs and sperm. I allowed them to be here because we've been talking about the evil in the world and what we can do about it. Whatever you need to say, you can say. Mick and I will clarify things with them later. Jason nodded and went on. So, the reason he did that was he was talking about running DNA tests and then about using their eggs and sperm to create babies if for some reason he couldn't get Jeffy to cooperate or get samples from Jeffy. He thought it would be entertaining to study Eric's and Shelley's genes. Of course, none of that came to fruition because we were able to rescue them all. Still, I'm telling you this so you know where the guy's mind is at. After hearing what the man said yesterday about the virgin and royal blood, it sounds like Dr. Black is still on his kick to study the Keno gene pool. And since he was so interested in Jeffy, a product of Eric and Shelley, he seems now to have focused his attention on the next generation. And since Ricky is Eric's son and Bree is Shelley's daughter, their children would be interesting to Dr. Black. And since the guy seems to be a pervert who imagined himself being with Jeffy, he is more than likely imagining the same scenario with Taylor. Taylor shuddered and Gabe put his arms securely around her. Ricky still stood by the window, and the blinking of his eyes was the only indication that he was listening at all. His calmness was a Keno characteristic. So we have a few things to consider. They want Gabe dead. We surmise that's because Dr. Black believes Gabe will make it so that Taylor is no longer a virgin, and in his eyes that sullies the gene pool. Why now? Everyone looked at Jeffy, who'd asked the question. It's hard to know what this guy is thinking, Jason answered, or how he's thinking. He's thinking he had you, but now you're lost to him because you're now pregnant. Keegan spoke suddenly. That doesn't make any sense. He never had her, Taylor said. With a delusional psychosis, people don't make much sense, Keegan answered. Jeffy is now lost to him. But here you are, a Jeffy look-alike. In his mind, you must have similar royal genes. He also seems to have a form of schizophrenia, which can lead to the tendency to rape or to pedophilia. You are young, beautiful, and innocent. That's how he sees you and has decided he wants you. He is fantasizing about being with you, even about you giving birth to his children. But I defer to Grandmaster Kino, or at this point, I guess I should call him Dr. Kino. You don't have to defer to me. You are absolutely correct, Eric said. Still, it's not like this Lance guy, is going to be able to deliver Taylor into Black's hands, young Eric said. I mean, Black is in jail. If he had succeeded in taking her yesterday, what would he intend to do with her? It's not like they could deliver her to him at the jailhouse. Well, Black may be thinking of some kind of act by proxy, or maybe something as simple as running tests on her, Keegan said. By proxy, what does that mean? Taylor asked. I may have said too much. Keegan looked to Eric for help. Eric nodded. Well, honey, there are a lot of things in this world that are perverse, especially when it comes to sex. Instead of it being a loving, wholesome expression of love between a man and a woman, people have perverted it into some pretty ugly things. These people lead deviant lifestyles, and one of these perversions has to do with having, I guess you could say, imaginary sex with someone by asking someone else to stand in for you. Taylor's mouth opened, but no sound came out. Her eyes filled with tears. Gabe held her tight. We won't let him get to you. I said that before I thought too much about it, Keegan went on. On second thought, I don't think that's what he's after. If so, then Cam being with Jeffy would satisfy him, or Gabe with Taylor would satisfy him. He doesn't want her bloodline sullied in any way. The only one who is worthy to be with her is him, and we know that's not going to happen. I agree, Eric said. The point is, Jason went on, we have to swing into high alert, not just for Taylor and the women, but for every single person in this family, because we already know that they will use other loved ones to draw out the one they want. As you all know, 3 years ago, they went after JoJo and Logan, who were only high school kids at the time. They've already stated they wanted to kill Gabe. Therefore, every member of this family and of the Tanner family need to be on high alert. Agents with everyone. Ricky, your security gate and camera room need to be manned. Here too, Eric. Every single one of you need to have an emergency text ready at the push of one button on your phones, and use it. I don't care if there are false alarms. Better safe than sorry. In the meantime, I'll be working with the FBI to find Lance. Dr. Black will be questioned, searched, and his access to the outside cut off. Like Eric said, everyone here is considered family, therefore everyone here is considered at risk. Now, I know because of personal experience that this family has a way of breaking protocol. I'm ordering you all right now that you will follow the rules the agents in charge give to you, unless I, Joey, or Keegan are consulted and overrule the agent. He looked around at several smiles. I'm not kidding, guys. No sneaking out, he said as he looked at Taylor. No drugging of my agents, he said, glaring at Bree. No horseplay or bets, he said, looking at young Eric, JoJo, and Logan. Your assigned agents will be arriving here before this meeting ends. I would prefer you don't hire anyone to do any work at your house when you don't know, whom you don't know. If someone new shows up, they will not be allowed on premises. Check out your vehicles. Make sure they're in good working condition. No bald tires, full tanks of gas, good batteries. Everyone's homes and phones will be checked for bugs because the bad guys knew that Gabe would be here and he and Taylor would be out on the beach. Still, in this day and age, it's nothing to hack into a cell phone. I'm sure Gabe and Taylor have texted back and forth about this visit, probably right to the minute they were arriving. He looked at Gabe and Taylor. Am I right? They nodded. Taylor held up her phone and read the text. Hey, Gabe, we finally made it through the traffic jam. Be there in 5 minutes. Jason went on. Text like that, along with them monitoring your Social media, it's easy to pinpoint your location. The out on the beach thing could be an assumption, knowing that two randy teenagers would want some alone time. But the point is, the bad guys knew the kids would be here. Gabe's face turned red. He'd played right into their hands, and he hated being labeled a randy teenager, but that was exactly what he'd acted like. He would do better. You all should be using a VPN on phones, laptops, and computers. From here on, don't share what you're doing or where you're going on social media, and you will use the encrypted texting platform we have provided. Justin, do you have anything to add? Jason asked his brother. Only that the FBI will be stepping in, and therefore we will no longer be dealing with the local police. Still, Keegan's action yesterday has been ruled a righteous shooting, and there will be no charges brought. Unfortunately, Keegan, you will have to go in to obtain possession of your firearm. Keegan nodded. That's all I have for now, Justin said. Joey, Jason asked. Tell them about the agents. Joey nodded and stood. Each family member will be assigned an agent with a few exceptions. I won't need anyone with me. Jeff is also on his own, as is Keegan, Mark, and Ricky. But we're not taking chances with Eric, Grandmaster or not. He will have an agent with him. Logan, Jojo, young Eric, though you are capable fighters, you will have an agent assigned. Gabe, you too, while you're here. At home, your father will assign you your bodyguard. Are those the only exceptions? Breeze asked. No. Since the little ones will be with you or I at all times, we don't need agents for them. Same for Mark's little M. So even though Bella and I and Mickey have all been doing self-defense training, you still think we need a bodyguard? Breeze asked. Well, I don't mean to hurt your feelings, sweetheart, but no matter how much training you've had, you're no match for a man. I'm not being sexist. It's just science. Look at Taylor. She's young, strong, agile, and she's been training all her life. She could destroy most any female. Yet look how easily they took her down. He paused and smiled at his niece. No offense, sweetie. Taylor shrugged. It is what it is. I got in a few good licks. Yes, you did. I watched the video. You rocked it there for a minute. By the way, Gabe, you two did well against those 4 guys. It was impressive. Gabe only shook his head. Stop beating yourself up, Joey admonished. Yeah, Gabe, you don't have to do that, because they already did it for you, Jojo joked as the group laughed, including Gabe. Back to business, Joey said. Some agent assignments will be logical. Cam is with Jeffy. Jensen is with Kimmy. I can't always be with Bree, so she'll have someone else. And same for Mickey, because Jeff can't always be with her. Anything else, Jason asked. Not at the moment, Joey replied. Eric nodded. Mark, I'm not going to call on you right now since your report has to do with Gabe. We'll meet with him next in my study. Mark gave a slight salute. Ricky, Eric said, we haven't heard from you. Ricky stood straight and walked to the front of the room. The gravity of this situation is really getting to me. I don't know, maybe because someone wants to harm my baby girl. I've been over there trying to put things into perspective. A lot of people in this room have come close to death. Literally just a few inches, just a few seconds from death. My dad and Shelley, numerous times. Joey was shot. Mark fell off a cliff. Logan almost fell off a cliff. Logan and Jojo beat to a pulp. Bella, everyone knows that story. Jeff taken by terrorists. Mickey kidnapped and marked for death. Angel shot. Kimmy pushed off a bridge into the ocean. Cam and Jeffy, too many to mention. Keegan also too many to mention. And Gabe is trying to catch up to his father. And my wife, beaten, almost raped, and shot. My son attacked by some skate punk. Myself, you all know, and now my baby girl is in danger. I asked God as I stood over there to help me to understand. I asked him, please, just help me to understand. And he did. The words my own father had spoken so many times came flooding into my brain, along with some new words straight from the Lord to go with it. I'm trying to remember everything he just said. He stopped and drew a deep breath. The words my father spoke, which the Lord just reminded me of, were that we are here for a purpose. We are bright lights, and whenever there is a bright light in the world, the dark forces of the world gather together to put it out. I've heard my father say that many times. I'm sure you all have. he said as he gestured around the room, and most everyone nodded in agreement. The Lord said we could choose to hide our light and not do anything, not help anyone. Then we would go unnoticed by the evil ones. But when we shine, we draw attention to ourselves. Well, why do we do it? Because all of us in this room are warriors. We fight for right. We protect the innocent. We serve the best we know how. Dr. Black has seen both Taylor's and Gabe's light, so he has gathered his dark forces. Some of those forces are ones we can actually see, like the guys we fought on the beach yesterday. Some are more on the spiritual realm. We can't see them, but the demons and entities are at work constantly. And the Lord just said to me that we're not fighting our battles alone. He is with us. God is with us. He choked with the emotion he felt and cleared his throat, drew a breath. Just like what Gabe just said in his prayer, we're not facing these hard times alone. We are not in the fiery furnace all alone. However, we are still in the furnace. It's what it takes for us to become stronger and more powerful, honed, and ready to fight the bigger battles. He told me as I stood right over there that yes, he could wave his mighty hand or speak a mighty word and make the furnace disappear. He could make the furnace disappear. But what good would that do? He asked me that. What good would that do to get rid of the hardships we face when we need to train, to get strong, to learn to handle adversity, and yes, even handle death? So stop trying to get out from under this burden, Ricky. Face it. He said I should be grateful for the opportunity to pick up my cross and bear it. So that is what I'm going to try to do. With a cheerful countenance, I'll try to face whatever adversity God has planned for me to face. And hopefully, my family will learn from that example. And then, right at the end, he gave me this message. He said, "Those who have ears to hear will know it's especially for them." He said, "You are not here to be comfortable, to lie on soft mattresses, eat fancy meals, and be entertained by fools. Your joy will come in the doing of hard things and from the relationships of a close family full of love and respect. Shine that light so everyone," that's what I have to say. "We will go after this guy. We will protect our families. We realize we are in the furnace and we will not cry, 'Woe is me.' He is with us and will withstand the heat." That's it. That's all I got. "Well, that was perfect," Eric said softly. He motioned toward Gabe. "Gabe, we haven't forgotten why you came out here to California in the first place, and we'll take a break and eat something, and then you, your father, Jason, Justin, and Mark and I will meet in my study." "Yes, sir," Gabe replied. Eric's phone buzzed and he glanced down. The security army had arrived. New scene. While Shelley and Eric worked in the kitchen to prepare food, Jason and Joey introduced each agent to the person they would give their lives to protect. The agents were feeling pretty good about the fact that they'd been picked to protect the boss's family. It wasn't a cush job, it was a serious job. Back 20 years earlier, one of their own had been killed and another critically injured while protecting Mrs. Keno and then 7-year-old Jeffy Keno. "You are to give your agent 24-hour notice of the next day's schedule. After that, all changes are to be approved," Jason said. There was a smattering of yes sirs in the crowd as they milled around, introducing themselves to everyone else. Once Breeze, Bella, and Mickey had been introduced to their respective bodyguards, they made their way into the kitchen to help. Most everyone gravitated into the kitchen and dining area. Joey came into the kitchen with the final agent. "Mickey, this is a second agent for you. This is Agent Wyatt." Mickey turned, confused. "Another one? You guys think I need extra protection?" "Well, Jeff and I spoke, and we decided you needed another agent to help look out for the boys since you're not feeling too hot." Mickey gasped. Joey stopped. "Oh, wow. I just messed up, didn't I?" "What's wrong with Mickey? Mickey, are you ill? You better not keep us from helping you. Tell me what's going on," Shelley said. "Did you do that on purpose?" Jeff asked Joey. Joey laughed. I wouldn't do that, I swear. Though it's not because I'm afraid of you, but because I really like Mickey. Mick, I am so sorry. I have never in my life divulged a secret I was supposed to keep. I don't know what happened. Jason, I might need a vacation. Yeah, that's not going to happen anytime soon. You want to maybe fill us all in on the big secret? The women all smiled because they'd all figured it out. You are kidding me, Bree said. Good grief, next thing you know, I'll be pregnant. Well, that would be very cool, Ricky said. I'm almost 48. It would not be cool. You want another child? There are lots of children out there waiting for someone to adopt them and give them a loving home. Ricky said. That's a good thought. Let's discuss it. I'm guessing Mrs. Davis is pregnant, Gabe whispered to Taylor. That's what it sounds like to me, she whispered back. Joey put his arm around Mickey. I'm sorry. Will you forgive me? She sighed. Of course. She looked up at Shelley. Yes, we're going to say anything. We weren't going to say anything yet until I got past the first trimester since I'm 42. But yes, I'm pregnant, due in December. Wow, 11-year-old Jeremy Davis said. I'm going to have another brother or sister. Pretty cool, older brother Daniel agreed. So cool, Jeffy said. Mickey, you and your sister and me and Kimmy and Lizzie Tanner and Lisa Stewart all pregnant at the same time. God must have some big plans coming up and needs a special task force. Gabe moaned as he felt like he'd been slammed in the chest. He crumpled to the floor. Taylor yelped as she tried to keep him from falling. A few agents standing nearby caught him and laid him down. Back up, Jeffy commanded. She and Keegan knelt down beside him. Keegan placed his hand on Gabe's head. Gabe, Jeffy said softly. She laid a hand on his shoulder, and he bucked immediately, and Keegan jerked his hand back. What's happening? Shelley asked. It felt like an electric shock just knocked my hand back, Keegan said. Don't touch him, Jeffy said. She leaned close and rested her forehead against Gabe's. She moaned. Tears ran down her cheeks. Can you see me, Gabe? I can see you. I see you talking to someone. Oh, wow. Oh, Gabe, how amazing is that, huh? I'm under the tree. Walk to me. That's right. Reach out and you can take my hand. Don't let go of my hand. We're headed back now. That's all your body can take right now. That's it. Come with me. Gabe's eyes fluttered open and Jeffy smiled at him.
This is a reminder. Turn the heater off. This is a reminder. Turn the heater off.
Hold on, I gotta turn the heater off. Okay. Let's see. Gabe's eyes fluttered open and Jeffy smiled at him. That was a trip, huh? Yeah, He stopped and blinked. I think I just spoke to an angel or something. He sat up and looked around at all the eyes peering at him. I'm sorry. It felt like I was electrocuted. I didn't mean to cause a commotion. He gazed into his father's eyes. Do you think I've lost my mind? Keegan sighed. Nope, but I think it's just been confirmed that God has some special plans for you. He grabbed his son's hand and pulled him to his feet. You feel steady? Gabe nodded, then smiled at Taylor as she moved close to him. Well, this assignment is not going to be boring, one of the agents said aloud, causing a round of laughter. Never is when the Kinos are involved, another said. Now that's the truth, another said. Jeffy's eyes met her father's. She felt like he should know what she saw inside Gabe's vision. New scene. Gabe bowed to Grandmaster Kino, shook Jason's and Justin's and Mark's hands. Keegan did the same, and they both settled onto the small sofa in Eric's study instead of into the hot seat, which currently had been moved back next to the sofa. Eric sat at his desk. Jason, Justin, and Mark each occupied a chair that had been moved to form a semicircle. So, Eric began, you two have traveled all the way across the country so that we can help you figure out what paths in life you have available to you. And we here are all honored to be a part of your decision making. But before we begin, let's start with a prayer. Justin, may I call on you? Of course, his longtime friend said. Justin prayed a beautiful prayer. Gabe looked up as he prayed. He hardly ever heard this man speak. He was usually pretty quiet, but from his prayer, Gabe could easily see, or more like feel, that this man was powerful and loyal and close to God. Thank you, Justin, Eric said. Justin is here because he is not only my dearest friend, but he is our family attorney and also handles our family finances. And he, with the help of other trusted accounting firms, takes care of the vast amounts of revenue that come in from Kino Martial Arts and even vaster amounts that come in from our investments. And he is part of the checks and balances that oversee Jeffy's Heal the World Foundation to make sure there is never any misuse of the funds. For one small misuse would cost the foundation millions because people must be able to completely trust the foundation to be totally 100% honest and trustworthy. And that's why we audit every single year. Gabe listened intently. Keegan, I know you two have a large portfolio, but put together by yourself and your father, so I'm assuming you two could be considered an expert. It's been more my father than me, and I'm a novice at best. Eric nodded, as am I. But that's why we surround ourselves with the experts. Absolutely. Mark is here because he's working on eventually taking over Justin's law firm, which was once Lee, Baker, and Todd, and then Lee, Baker, and Adams, and is now Lee and Adams. In order for Mark to take over, he has to learn not just the criminal defense aspects, which, by the way, he is a genius at, but all aspects, including finance and business law. He will soon be taking over my personal portfolio so that Justin can retire. Mark has been put to the task of looking into your ultimate warrior fund for Gabe Tanner. What can be done with it, how to best run it, how to get the most out of it, and how to help the most people. He'll give his report in a few minutes. Eric gestured toward Jason. Jason is here because of your interest in becoming an agent or even more an elite, and your interest in going to school while you accomplish this goal, and that is where we will begin. Jason? Gabe, Jason began, I reached out to your father to join Ameritech back before you were born because I recognized him as a brilliant, honest, strong warrior, a quality man, a hero, someone I wanted to be associated with my agency. You're much younger than him, but I feel the same way about you. Of course, it would make sense that Keegan's son would become the warrior he is. Still, I'm blown away by your character and your level head, your skills, your strength, and your obvious spirituality. I would love to have you as part of our agency as an elite. As you know, becoming a jet is a difficult thing to do. Many have tried and failed, but I have no doubt that you would make it. It would please me to have you choose Ameritech as part of your path, but there are some reservations. What reservations? Gabe asked. Well, before I answer that, let me ask you a few questions. Why do you want to be an elite? I want to get strong. I want to be skilled. I've had so much respect for my dad and for Agent Davis and for you and for Jake, who I know isn't Ameritech, but he is Special Forces. And I want to be like these men who are skilled and strong and who I respect. I'm willing to work as hard as it takes to accomplish it. I believe you. Why Ameritech? Why not the military? I mean, your father is a Marine. The Apples are Marines. Gabe tried to put his feelings into words. I don't think I can do what the military does. You think going the Ameritech path is easier? Oh, no, sir. I mean, I don't think I can go to war to fight in a foreign country for a cause that I'm not sure is legit. There's so much dishonesty in the government. We never really know the truth about why they fight and who they fight. There's so many accounts of ex-military who were disheartened by things they learned, by things they were made to do. I've done the research. It sounds like you've thought a lot about this. It's all I've thought about. I don't want to disappoint my dad, but I discovered that he too knows how messed up the government can be. Keegan? He's right. I've not hidden my disdain for the things I sometimes had to do because some suit or cake eater had his own political agenda. And you know yourself how I feel about the corruption in the FBI. My brothers in arms are my brothers. They are not bad people. Not everyone in the FBI is bad, but there is definitely corruption, especially in the upper echelon. Gabe nodded in agreement. At Ameritech, I would have the opportunity to get strong, get skilled, do some good in the world, and I would be able to feel assured that it was being done in honesty for a good cause. To help someone, to protect someone, no political agendas. And that's how I see it. But I have some reservations myself about Ameritech. Several. Keegan smiled at his son's brazenness. Jason smiled too. Who was interviewing who? Well, by all means, fill me in. Gabe grimaced. I hope you know I mean no disrespect. I'm not easily offended. Please speak freely, Gabe. Well, I want to get educated. I want to be able to move up in the company, but I don't want to go to school full time and put off training. I need to get strong now, so I'll need to go to school part time and train full time. That's easily handled. I have a program in place. But if we spend time and money to school and train you, which is extensive, we expect you to give us at least 5 years of service after that. Gabe nodded. That's fair. What else? Jason asked. Well, how do I explain this? Before my football games and baseball games, our school always invited the military out onto the field during the national anthem. It always brought tears to my eyes and filled me with strong patriotism and a love for my country. And I realized as a Meritech, I wouldn't be able to stand on that field and let people know that I'm willing to give my life for my country, for my family, and for my neighbors too. But I thought, why not? I mean, Ameritech works side by side with military on numerous occasions. And American is right there in the name of your company. We should have some kind of American agenda to promote and show the love Ameritech agents have for their country, to show the world that we have American values and that we too are willing to make the ultimate sacrifice. I mean, here you have all of these amazing warriors working for you, and no one knows or understands how skilled they are, how brave they are, how loyal they are. I know your company is worldwide, so the thought of promoting American values may not be the best way to promote Ameritech. And that, I guess, is the reservation. I'm not even sure I made any sense in what I'm talking about because it's difficult to put into words what I'm asking since I'm not really clear on that myself. Keegan looked proudly at his young son and then back at Jason, who seemed to be deep in thought. I think you've made it quite clear, Jason said. It should be made known, at least here in our own country, how often we work with the military and the FBI and local law enforcement. We should maybe make a public relations campaign to honor the warriors here at Ameritech that sacrificed their lives to protect the innocent. Yeah, like that Battle to Belong U.S. Marine Corps commercial, Gabe said, only it would be showing clips of agents training, helping in natural disasters beside the National Guard and stuff like that. Maybe arrange little public appearances in major cities, heck, in small towns too, Gabe said with a smile spreading across his face. Eric cleared his throat. So your reservation was that as an Ameritech agent, you wouldn't get the accolades and recognition that you want? Gabe lowered his head and blinked. Wow. That's how it seems, doesn't it? Gabe said sadly. He shook his head. I don't need the accolades. I'm willing to serve God with no one knowing but me and God. I guess I was thinking about Jeff. I mean, Agent Davis, and Agent Adams, and Agent Wallace, and Agent Deal, and all the others who put their lives on the line every day, but they don't get to stand and salute the flag. They don't get to show how patriotic they are. They deserve some kind of recognition for what they do, that's all. I'm just proud of them. And I wish the country knew just how skilled and strong these guys are and how much they love their country and how they serve our country. And I have to say, Grandmaster Kino, that it makes me sad to think that you would think that of me. Eric smiled. Take heart, Gabriel. I don't think that of you. You said you weren't really clear about what you were saying. I just wanted you to get that clear in your mind. Gabe smiled. He's pretty tricky sometimes, Mark explained to Gabe. So, Jason went on, if I meet your demands, then you'll consider coming to Ameritech? Well, we haven't discussed money yet, Gabe joked. The others laughed. Don't push it, son, Keegan said quietly. Well, before you make any decisions, let's hear what Mark has to say about your foundation, Eric said. Mark, what do you got? So much. It may take a while. Before I present your options, Gabe, I need to ask you a few questions. Do you have some thoughts or ideas about whom you want to serve with the foundation? I have a few things I've been thinking about, but they're not very clear. It's okay if they're vague. We'll polish them up, but we need to know what angles you're contemplating. Gabe nodded. Well, like there's this kid, Will Cole, back in Pine Forest. He's actually the guy who jumped me at school. He got a bad break. He got in a fight when he was younger against some older bully, and he cracked him over the head with a bottle that was lying around, and the bully's parents pressed charges, and Will ended up spending a year in in a juvenile correctional facility. Mark smiled. I knew what you meant. Well, obviously the place didn't correct him. I was thinking if we could help kids like him somehow. I don't know what could be done. I don't know how we can help. Well, you're actually talking right up my alley. First, in this particular case, we'd have to look into it and see what went wrong. For example, did he have a lawyer? I'm guessing court appointed. But let's pretend for a minute he did have a good attorney and that wasn't the problem. Maybe he had no father at home. Maybe he has no direction. Maybe they're struggling financially. There is a reason he, like you said, got a bad break. Gabe shook his head. See? It feels overwhelming. Well, that's not overwhelming at all. I can look into his case for you and see what his challenges were and are. That will help us to know where we want to take this and how we could have helped. Let's go back in time magically and say this kid just got arrested, and his mom says, we don't have money for an attorney. What will we do? And then they remember there's this organization, especially for underprivileged kids who get into legal trouble. You'll need some catchy names so that the people will remember it. And she calls our organization. We look into not only the legal battles, but the deeper why of everything. We can offer counseling or big brother type mentoring or even a place to go rather than streets like community center. We look into her legal battles. Gabe smiled. Well, that would be cool. What else have you been thinking? Well, the lady who kidnapped me, she also had a rough break. My dad said it perfectly when he said she was pretty much doomed from the beginning. I guess you guys know the story? Yes, we do, Eric said. We've discussed Mia Casellas at length, and your dad is right. So I was thinking we could do something about the children or families of criminals. Should they have to pay for the bad choices of their parents? Again, Gabe, right up my alley. If that family had somewhere to turn when they lost their home, when they lost everything, maybe Mia Casellas would be a bright, well-adjusted young woman with a future. Again, Gabe said, it feels overwhelming. How can we help these people? Well, your foundation name has to be out there. It needs to be professionally organized. Someone calls 1-800 number. They are immediately set up for a consultation to see if we can help them and how we can best serve them. I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to set this all up. You don't need to know how, unless you want to know how. But you just clarified a few minutes ago that training to be an elite is top on your priority list. You can go to school and learn about running a nonprofit if that's the degree you really want, but you don't have to do that. We surround ourselves with experts. I would handle all the legalities of setting up your foundation. We'll brainstorm a catchy name. Not that Gabe Tanner Ultimate Warrior isn't catchy, he said with a smile, but maybe something shorter. Once we have the name, we'll have to set up employees, HR, everything beyond reproach. Employees? Yes, people who answer phones, people who contact attorneys willing to donate time, and in special cases, attorneys who must be paid. We'll need counselors, investigators, computer experts similar to Jensen, and more. And then there's the fundraising part, which is more your area. Fundraising? Of course. You currently have almost $50 million. That sounds like a lot, but that could dwindle down pretty fast. We'll invest some and we'll spend a little on publicity to make a lot, and you'll have to make some public appearances, explain your foundation. You are the biggest asset. Your appeal to the young people of this country is what makes all of this possible. You appeal on so many levels. The fighting, martial arts, boxing, UFC communities are all into watching to see what you do next. So that might mean you'll need to do some challenges, more mini marts or a few keno challenges, so they know you're legit and not a fluke. And you becoming an elite will not only add to your credibility, but also give you an opportunity to do for Ameritech what you spoke about earlier. And then there's the kids sports community. Kids sports? All of those baseball games being live streamed, it's like the whole country became a fan of the Pine Forest High School Rebels, and mostly of you. There was a big upsurge in kids wanting to play rec ball this summer. Signing up to play rec ball increased by 45%. That is huge. And then your popularity because of your videoed abduction, and then coming back to play ball against the odds. Do you know how inspirational that is and how many video channels have done a special on you to promote kids' sports? I didn't realize all this, Gabe said softly. And there's a lot more. Remember the challenge you gave during your interview with Teen Spotter? To be in service in your community? Yes, Across the country, teens serving their communities have trended every weekend since then. Some towns have set up teen help centers manned by teens who want to be in service. It's incredible. So that community of charity also is watching you, watching for your next move and for you to set the example of what to do next. And then there's the dance community. Do you know what a craze dancing is in this country? The video of you and Taylor dancing at the prom went mega viral, and there was a challenge to do your dance to Uptown Funk, and there were hundreds of people who took up the challenge, and some of the most popular were some of the big guys from So You Think You Could Dance, and one from two adorable little kids who were amazing. So the dance community is also waiting and watching for your next move. And the way you and Taylor went out of your way to include everyone at your prom, that started a movement of, I don't even know what to call it, of kindness spreading across the country. And then there is the huge Christian community and your influence there. I could go on and on, but I'll stop there. Bottom line, you have the young people of the country in the palm of your hands. You have the means to continue to raise money for your foundation with no problem. So once we come up with a name, I set it up legally. I'll organize the moving parts, and then I'll get the same group who runs Jeffy's Heal the World Foundation to take over the running of your foundation to free you up to do whatever it is you want to do. How does that sound? Gabe smiled. Overwhelming, but awesome. It feels like a weight has been lifted off my shoulders. And that was my goal. But I need to ask if there were any other ideas you were thinking about. Gabe sighed. I don't know if this is part of the foundation or not, but I want to do or have a ministry. I want to bring people to Christ and teach people to have hope, to live in hope, and to live in love, and to know that God is real. I want to serve them. I want to be, like Grandmaster Keno always says, to be a light. You know, your brother Joey came to see me when I was in the hospital and told me I was no longer just a normal kid, and I could hide my light under a bushel or I could let it shine. Mark smiled. Well, my little brother has always had a way with words. Well, he really shook me up. And for a while, I was fighting it. I was thinking, I just want to be a normal kid, but that would be hiding under a bushel. And I have enough warrior in me to know that that's not how I want to be. I want to serve God, serve his children, have a ministry, but I don't know where to start. You've already started, Eric put in. Did you just hear all the things you've done? All the people you've touched without even meaning to? So how do you continue? I don't know. I guess I'm dumb, but I don't know where to go from here. It's not being done, Gabe, Mark said. So far, you are where you are because of the internet, because of social media. Isla was brought into your world for a purpose. You changed her life, which she has testified on air many times now, and she is changing your life. So the internet is your tool. All those different communities whom I named earlier are out there waiting for your next move, literally waiting for the next word that comes out of your mouth. That means you need an internet presence. You can't stand by and wait for the next time Isla decides to interview you. You need your platform. You will need to interact with them daily. Well, how can I find time to do that? It will be part of your foundation, so we'll be able to pay someone to maintain your internet presence. All you'll have to do is speak into a camera every day. Speak what? It's your ministry. Let God tell you what to say. Greet your online community, offer words of encouragement, tell them what you're going to do that day, issue a challenge like you did about community service, or offer a prayer on their behalf. The person we hire to maintain your social presence will let you know what's trending, if there's someone who needs help, if someone needs prayers. Your presence will grow quickly, and I'm sure Isla will be more than willing to work with you, even partner with you on things. And with her giant influence, you'll be able to be up and running quickly. Gabe listened intently as Mark went on with numbers and statistics and the outline of everything that needs to be done. He sent all of his layout to the emails of the people in the room, and once Mark finished, Gabe felt amazingly at ease and excited. So it's already afternoon. I'm sure you're tired, Gabe. I know I am. Gabe smiled. Well, mostly hungry. Of course you are, Keegan chuckled. How did we do? Grandmaster Keno asked. Do you feel clear on your path? Yes, sir. I'll take the summer to rest and to plan and to establish my internet presence. Beginning of September, I'll report to Ameritech and start school. I'll pray and ask for guidance on my degree and area of study. Since I'm training with Ameritech here, I'll probably go to UCLA or USC, and we'll take care of that paperwork right away. I'll also use the summer to spend quality time with my family and friends because I'm going to be away from them for a long time. And when I turn 18, I'll have some legal paperwork I'll need to take care of, so that will happen over the summer too. When exactly is your birthday? Eric asked. It's June 14th, the day before Jake and Lena's wedding, Gabe replied. Everyone was quiet, seemingly dumbfounded. What's wrong? Keegan asked. Eric shook his head. Nothing is wrong. It's just so fitting. I never thought to ask before. Gabe's birthday is the same day as mine. Wow, Gabe said. No way. Eric nodded and rubbed his hand over his heart. Yes, that's pretty amazing. Our family will be in Georgia for the wedding. We're filling up almost all of the inn rooms and cottages, so we'll be right next door. We'll have to do a little joint birthday breakfast early so we don't interfere with Jake's and Lena's plans. I'd be honored to share a birthday breakfast with you, Gabe said reverently. Well, I look forward to it. Everyone, thank you so much for all of your input. I hope it was worth the trip considering yesterday's adventure. Gabe touched his fingers to his throat and nodded. I can't thank you all enough for helping us figure this out. And thanks, Dad, for making this trip happen. Keegan nodded. Everyone rose and shook hands and made their way out to join the rest of the family. And that is the end of chapter 26.